I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing a story like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I want to get this off my chest because maybe someone out there will read it and tell me if I was right to feel like I was punched in the gut or if I'm just overreacting. Honestly, I don't even know what I am right now. So I'll start from the beginning. My wife, Jessica, and I had been married for about 5 years. We met in college. She was the girl everyone liked, smart, confident, a little bitchy, but charming enough to get away with it. We seemed fine, or at least I thought so. She was always busy with her job. She's a marketing exec, and I was working as a project manager for a construction company. Nothing extraordinary, but we made it work. Looking back now, maybe there were little signs. She started arguing more, snapping at me for no reason, and I noticed she was more distant. Then the last few months she got super religious. She started going to church more often, even joining some recovery group. I was glad she was trying to better herself, I mean, who is? But I also thought it was kind of weird how obsessive she was about it. She even started going to meetings in the church basement, which she'd never done before, even when we first got married. And then came the signs. She'd come home late, excuse after excuse. She'd get cold and distant when I asked her about her day. But the biggest thing was the change in her phone habits. She'd keep it on lock, hiding it from me, which she never used to do. I was getting suspicious, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Still, I felt like I was losing her and I didn't know how to fix it. I just kept telling myself maybe she's stressed, maybe it's the church thing, maybe she's just trying to find herself. That's until last week. I was supposed to meet her at the grocery store, but she texted me saying she'd be late. Normally, I'd just shrug it off, but then I noticed her phone buzz and I saw a message pop up. It wasn't from a close friend or family. It was a number I didn't recognize, but the message made my stomach turn. It said, "Can't wait to see you in the basement tonight. I've missed you." The message was from someone named Chris. That struck me like a punch. Chris. Who the hell is Chris? I did what I shouldn't have done. I looked at her phone when she wasn't paying attention. And there it was. A string of messages, texts, pictures, everything. Her telling him how much she wanted to see him, how she missed their secret meetings and even plans to meet in the church basement. I couldn't believe my eyes. My wife, Jessica, cheating with some guy in the church basement, and she was lying to my face about it. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. My heart was pounding, my mind racing. I was furious, hurt, embarrassed. How long had this been going on? Was this the whole time she was saying she was getting closer to God? Or was I just blind? I didn't sleep that night, just sat there staring at her phone, trying to process what I'd seen. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew everything was about to change. I just didn't know if I was ready for it or if I even wanted to be in that marriage anymore. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a Mack truck. My mind kept replaying the messages I'd seen. Part of me was in disbelief. This couldn't be happening. Jessica, my wife, the woman I trusted, was cheating on me in the church basement. It felt like my entire world had turned upside down in a matter of hours. I didn't want to jump to conclusions without hearing her side, but honestly I didn't see how she could possibly explain this away. I mean, Chris. Could she even deny it? When I looked at her the night before, I noticed she was unusually tense and defensive, almost like she knew I'd sneak a peek. That made me angrier, how she lied, how she played with my trust like it was nothing. I kept wondering if I'd missed all the signs or if I was just stupid for not seeing it sooner. I decided I'd confront her after breakfast, but I also knew I had to prepare myself. I was seething, but I needed to keep my composure, at least until I heard what she had to say. I made a cup of coffee, sat across from her, and kept a calm face, though inside my stomach was twisting. She was acting normal, chatting about some church event, acting like everything was fine. It made me want to scream. Finally, I just blurted out, "Jessica, I know about the messages. Who is Chris and what the hell are you doing in the church basement with him?" Her face froze for a moment like she'd been caught off guard, then she scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Oh, so now you're spying on me. You've got some nerve, Mike. It's none of your business what I do. Maybe if you actually paid attention to your own life instead of snooping around, you'd know what's going on." Her tone was bitchy, dismissive, like I was some kind of inconvenience. That pissed me off even more. "Don't play dumb with me. I saw the messages, Jessica. You've been cheating on me. In church of all places. How long has this been going on? Did you think I wouldn't find out? I was trying to keep my voice steady, but I could feel the anger bubbling up. She rolled her eyes again, taking a sip of her coffee. Seriously, Mike, you're overreacting. Chris is just a guy from the meetings. We're just friends. You're always accusing me of stuff. Maybe if you weren't so suspicious, I wouldn't feel the need to hide things. She looked at me like I was the crazy one, like I was the problem. I told her I wasn't going to be played for a fool anymore, that I knew she was lying. That's when she started to get defensive, raising her voice. Oh, so now I'm the cheater. You're crazy, Mike. You think I have time to cheat on you with some guy in the church basement. You're paranoid. Maybe you're the one who's been cheating on me. Her words cut deep, and I could see the anger and contempt in her eyes. I sat there stunned. I didn't even know what to say. I couldn't believe I was married to someone who could lie so easily, who could betray me this way, in a place I thought was supposed to be sacred. I felt a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and confusion. How long had she been lying? Was she always like this? Was I just blind because I loved her? I wanted to yell to make her admit everything, but I also knew I needed to hold back, at least for now. I told her I was done with her lies and that I needed some time to think. She shrugged and said she didn't care, that she'd do what she wanted, and that I was just paranoid. That's when I realized I was dealing with a woman who didn't care about me or our marriage anymore. That day, I felt like I lost a piece of myself. I never thought I'd be the guy who discovered his wife cheating and then sat there trying to process what it all meant. The betrayal was one thing, but the way she lied with that bitchy attitude, like she didn't care, made it worse. I'd never felt so hurt, so confused, and so furious all at once. I just kept asking myself, what comes next? After that confrontation, everything changed. We didn't talk much the rest of the day. I kept replaying the scene in my head, trying to figure out what I'd do next. I knew I couldn't just pretend like nothing happened. I needed answers, and I needed to decide what was more important, fighting for the marriage or walking away. The worst part was the betrayal in the church basement, where I'd always thought she was working on herself. It was her sanctuary, a place I thought she was genuinely trying to find redemption. The fact that she'd been sneaking off with Chris behind my back, in a place that's supposed to be about healing, made me feel sick. That she would lie to my face, act like everything was fine, and then go behind my back. It was like a punch to the stomach every time I thought about it. Over the next few days, I couldn't concentrate on work, and I found myself checking her phone constantly. I was obsessed with finding more evidence, more proof that I was right. One night, I decided to go through her messages again, just to make sure I hadn't missed anything. And that's when I found the real kicker. There was a picture, a selfie she took with Chris, smiling, her hand on his shoulder. They were in the church basement, the same place I'd seen in the messages. It hit me hard. This wasn't just a fling. This was something she wanted to hide, something she was proud of enough to take pictures of. That's when I knew I couldn't stay silent. I couldn't pretend everything was okay anymore. I had to do something. I decided I was going to confront her again, but this time I was going to have proof. I wanted her to see I wasn't messing around. I also knew I couldn't keep living in this lie, feeling like I was losing my mind while she played her games. One evening, I found her in the living room scrolling through her phone like she didn't have a care in the world. I sat down across from her, took a deep breath, and laid the picture on the table. Her eyes widened and her face went pale. For a moment, she looked like she was about to deny everything, but I cut her off. "Jessica," I said, voice low but firm, "I know what you've been doing. I know about Chris, about the messages, about the pictures. Don't bother lying anymore. I've seen enough. You've been cheating on me, in the place I thought you were trying to find God. How long has this been going on?" She looked at me with that trademark bitchy sneer, then scoffed. "Oh, so now you're the victim. You're really going to sit here and act like I did something wrong? Please. I was just having some fun. You've been such a shitty husband, I deserve some happiness." Her words made my blood boil. I couldn't believe she dismissed everything like it was nothing. I told her I was done being lied to, done being played like some idiot, that I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. Her response: she rolled her eyes and said, "You're overreacting, you're crazy. I don't know what you want me to say, Mike. Maybe I should start seeing someone else since you obviously don't care enough to keep me happy." Her tone was venomous, cold. That night I felt completely shattered. Everything I'd believed in, everything I thought was real, was gone. It was like my foundation had crumbled under my feet. I was furious, yes, but also devastated. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all of this? How could someone I loved so much turn out to be so cold, so manipulative? I thought about the promises we made, the vows, the years we spent building a life. And I realized that the woman I married was nothing like the woman sitting across from me now. I knew I couldn't just sweep this under the rug. I had to decide what to do, whether to fight for her, try to salvage something, or just walk away. But part of me was already convinced I'd had enough. The trust was broken beyond repair. Still, I needed time to think, to let everything settle in my mind before making any final decisions. Whatever came next, I knew my world had changed forever, and I'd never see her the same way again. The days that followed were like living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I hadn't slept much, and every time I closed my eyes, her face, her sneer, and those damn messages haunted me. I kept going over everything, how she lied, how she dismissed my feelings, how she could cheat in a holy place like the church basement. It felt like my entire life was a lie, and I was just now starting to realize it. I decided I had to do something about it. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, wondering if I was imagining things or if she'd actually change. But what could I do? I felt betrayed, humiliated, and honestly, pretty damn angry. I wanted her to see what her betrayal had done, to understand how much she'd hurt me. I knew I needed a plan, something that would hit her where it hurt without making things worse. Something calculated, cold even, because I wasn't about to be played anymore. I remembered I'd installed that security camera in the church basement after they had some recent break-ins. I thought it was overkill, but now I saw it as a way to get concrete proof. I had access to the footage, and I was planning to use it. I wanted her to know I knew. I wanted her to see herself in those recordings, in her own betrayal, in her own lies. I wasn't sure if I was going to show her right away, but I had to have it ready, proof that she couldn't deny. The night I decided to do it, I sat in my home office, staring at the footage on my laptop. There she was, Jessica, sneaking into the basement with Chris, giggling, touching, and then finally the intimate moments that she'd tried so hard to hide. It was brutal watching her act so carefree, so confident as she betrayed me right under my nose. It was one thing to suspect, another to see it so clearly. I felt a mixture of rage and heartbreak. How could she do this? How could she look me in the eye and lie so effortlessly? I knew I had to confront her again, but this time with undeniable proof. I planned to do it the next morning. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just some paranoid guy making accusations. I wanted her to understand that I had the evidence, that I knew the truth. That night, I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and dread. Satisfaction because I'd finally confirmed what I already knew, and dread because I realized this would only make things worse. The next day, I woke up early, heart pounding. I kept thinking about how I'd do it, what I'd say, how I'd present the footage. I didn't want to just scream at her or attack her. I wanted her to see herself, too. See what she'd done and maybe, just maybe, understand the damage she'd caused. I sat her down in the living room, pulled out my laptop and pressed play. Her face morphed from boredom to shock as the video played. There she was in her most revealing moments with Chris in the church basement. Her lips curled into a nervous smile, and her eyes darted around like she was trying to deny what was happening on the screen. Her mouth opened to speak, but no words came out. I watched her struggle, watched her realize she was caught, and then she looked at me, her expression a mix of contempt and anger. "You lying bitch," I said, voice trembling but firm. "This is what you've been doing behind my back, in a place I thought was sacred. How long has this been going on?" I paused, watching her squirm. "And don't bother with excuses. I've got the proof. I saw everything, Jessica, every damn moment." She looked at me with that same bitchy sneer, her eyes flashing with defiance. "You're crazy, Mike. You're making this up. This isn't what it looks like. You're just projecting your insecurities." She spat, voice dripping with venom. She tried to deny it, to spin some story, but I was done listening. "Save it," I snapped. I don't want to hear your bullshit anymore. You're a liar and a cheat. I'm done. I want a divorce. I want you out of my house. My voice cracked, a mix of anger and heartbreak. I couldn't believe I'd let it go this far, that I'd trusted her for so long. But at this point, I knew I had no choice but to end it. She stood up, yelling, "You're crazy. You're just jealous because I found happiness. You're too insecure to handle it. I don't need you anymore." That was the moment I realized she didn't care. Not about the marriage, not about me, not about the church she claimed to love. She was just angry because she got caught, and now she was trying to turn it around on me. I told her to leave that day. She packed her things, still bitching, still denying everything. As she walked out the door, I felt a strange mix of relief and despair. I'd finally seen the truth, and it was uglier than I'd imagined. I realized that my life with her was over. She'd betrayed me in the worst way possible, and I didn't see how I could ever forgive her. But part of me wondered, was I better off without her? Or was I just fooling myself? The days after she left felt surreal. I was alone in a house that suddenly felt too big, too cold. The silence was deafening. Every corner seemed to echo with memories of what used to be. I kept going back and rewatching the footage, trying to process how I'd ended up here. How did I not see it coming? How did I let someone I loved so much betray me in such a brutal way? Honestly, I was angry at myself for not noticing sooner. But more than that, I was furious at her, Jessica, who thought she could lie, cheat, and just walk away like it was nothing. That bitchy attitude she'd thrown at me during the confrontation, the way she dismissed everything I said, made me realize she had zero respect for the vows we made or for me. It stung, but it also lit a fire in me. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore, it was about reclaiming some dignity. I decided I had to get revenge in my own way. Not to hurt her physically, that's not my style, but to make her see that her actions had consequences. I spent hours plotting, trying to come up with a way to make her regret what she'd done. I knew she'd always boast about her independence, her freedom, but I wanted her to understand that actions have repercussions. I wasn't just going to sit there and be a victim. No, I was going to make her see what she'd lost. One idea I had was to release the footage online. I know it sounds extreme, but I wanted her to see that I wasn't afraid to expose her. I figured if I posted it on some anonymous site, her reputation would be ruined. That thought made me feel a little empowered. She thought she was untouchable, sneaking around in her church basement playing her games. Well, she wasn't as clever as she thought. I wanted her to know I wasn't some pushover. But I also knew that was a risky move. Jessica was a manipulative, bitchy woman, and I didn't want to turn her into some kind of victim. I had to be smarter, so I decided to send her a message, just a simple, cold one. I told her I knew everything, that her betrayal was disgusting, and that I'd made sure everyone knew how she truly was. I kept it vague enough to make her worry, but clear enough that she knew I was serious. I wanted her to feel the sting of guilt, the shame of knowing she'd been exposed. The next step was to cut ties completely. I changed my phone number, blocked her from all social media, and even moved some of my stuff out of the house temporarily. I couldn't stand to be near her anymore. Each day without her felt like a small victory, but also a huge loss. I'd lost my wife, my partner, the woman I thought I knew. And I wondered, was I ever really married to her? Or was I just fooling myself all along? I still wrestled with a lot of feelings. In some moments I wanted to reach out to her to ask her why. Why she did it, how she could be so cold, so manipulative. But I knew I'd never get a real answer. She'd lie, deny, spin some story to save herself. That's what she did best, lie and manipulate people until she got what she wanted. I realized that I'd been just another pawn in her game, another guy she could toy with. One thing I learned through all this is how fragile trust really is. It's like a glass vase. You can hold it carefully for years, but one crack, one betrayal, and it shatters into a million pieces. I never thought I'd be the guy whose marriage ends like this, in betrayal and anger, but here I am. I'm still trying to pick up the pieces, still trying to figure out who I am now that she's gone. The pain is real, but so is the relief. Part of me feels a weight lift every day she's not around messing with my head. I guess if I could give anyone advice, it'd be this: trust your gut. Don't ignore the little signs of trouble. And when you catch someone in a lie, No matter how much it hurts, deal with it immediately. Because waiting only makes it worse. I thought I was crazy for a while, questioning myself, wondering if I'd overreacted. Turns out, my instincts were right all along. I just wish I'd seen it sooner. Now, sitting here months after everything fell apart, I can't say I've fully healed, but I've definitely moved forward. I've learned some hard lessons, the kind that stick with you forever. The biggest one is that trust is fragile, one betrayal, and it's almost impossible to repair. Jessica's betrayal didn't just break my heart, it shattered my sense of security, my faith in the woman I married. I used to believe in honesty, loyalty, love. Now I know those are things you have to fight for every single day. I've come to realize that revenge, in some twisted way, helped me reclaim a piece of myself. It wasn't about hurting her or making her suffer, at least not directly. It was about taking control again, about showing her that her actions have consequences. Seeing her face when she realized I had the proof, the way her smug attitude crumbled, that was satisfying in a way I never imagined. It proved I wasn't just some naive fool. I was stronger than her lies, more resilient than her manipulations. But beyond that, I've learned to value myself more. I stopped trying to fix something that was broken beyond repair. I stopped blaming myself for her choices and started focusing on my own healing. I got rid of the blame I'd carried for so long. It took time, therapy, a lot of painful nights, but I'm slowly putting the pieces back together. The trust I once had in people is forever scarred, but I refuse to let that define me. I'm rebuilding my life on my own terms with a clearer understanding that sometimes people you love will betray you, and that's not your fault. Honestly, I don't regret exposing her. I don't regret standing up for myself, even if it meant a lot of pain. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to realize what really matters. For me, it was about realizing my own worth, about not letting someone else's betrayal define my future. I'm still single, still healing, but I'm also stronger. I know what I won't tolerate anymore: lies, betrayal, manipulation. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this: trust your instincts. Don't ignore the red flags, no matter how much you want to believe in the best of people. And when you catch someone cheating or lying, don't deny yourself the truth. It might hurt like hell in the moment, but it's better than living in a lie. Be honest with yourself about what you need, what you deserve, and don't settle for less. I'm not perfect, and I still struggle with trust and anger sometimes. But I'm learning to accept that pain is part of healing, and that eventually the pain will lessen, and I'll find happiness again, something I never truly believed I'd do after all this. Life goes on. People screw up, they betray you, and sometimes they walk away. But you have to decide whether you're going to let that destroy you or make you stronger. So here I am, telling my story. Maybe it'll help someone out there who's going through something similar. Maybe it'll give them the courage to face the truth, no matter how ugly it is. Because in the end, the only way out is through. And I'm finally on my way out of the darkness into whatever light awaits next.